with the organic, you're taking a few steps out, and you're also creating and you're working on the tools that you need to work on to have a successful relationship anyway, instead of swiping on the screen.
I'll have what she's having.
Welcome to another edition of
She Talks Confidence
Podcast.
Crazy, that's how it goes. Welcome back. She Talks Confidence Podcast. I almost said walk of shame.
The walk of shame.
And I should probably put the intro right at the beginning. Back with Lex. How you doing? This is my old dance partner from the 9 year ago podcast that we did, the walk of shame, and also the surrounded by idiots. Lex, first of all, hey, how are you? Great to be back. And I'm so super excited to talk to you about this because you're like, what is that? I'm like, oh, this is perfect.
Yeah, I'm the lady. I'm the lady now that doesn't know what these social terms are. I'm not even gonna lie. I Google acronyms sometimes.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
And
you have to.
I was at dinner with some girlfriends the other night, and one of my girlfriends, she's in her early 40s, and she has a 17-year-old daughter. And her 17-year-old daughter messaged her, and I forget the term, but asked her, Mom, my friend's telling me to dress whatever vibe, X vibe. And she looked at me and she's, what does blah, blah, blah mean? And I was like, I have no idea. And I think that's wild.
Yeah, that's what happens when the generation, all of a sudden there's one that develops below you. And you're like, oh, hold on a second. Again, if I didn't have my granddaughter, I wouldn't know half of the terms that are going on now. So this show, I want to talk about organic dating. This is what the 20 to 30-ish generation is calling dating, like we used to do before social media came in. And we had the show 9 years ago. It was like our 5th show that we did. And it was the what's wrong with online dating, or the horrors of online dating. And if you go back and listen to the show, we shouldn't even have to do this one, because basically we laid out all the reasons why online dating blows and how to, now they call it organic dating, which means just going out and about and doing it. So the reason why I want to bring this up is that I'm on TikTok doing my stuff and researching all that. And there's a clamoring for people to go back to organic dating, but they don't know how to do it.
Yeah.
Because it's not a muscle that's been worked before. So that being the case, maybe we should talk about back in the day what we did and how we did it. And the fact is that, I got to be honest with you, it's more work and you put yourself out there. And we talked in the last show about, being uncomfortable, getting out of your comfort zone. What are your thoughts on all of a sudden this coming back? And you never did do an online dating thing, right? So you were always in the trenches.
I was just talking to my husband about this because we went to see a DJ that we both really love out here in San Diego on Sunday. And what I love is the San Diego scene is like all ages. So you never feel like I had the essence before we were going. We were like, should we be going to this? Is it going to be all 20-year-olds? But we got there and I was like, this is such a great crowd. But we were standing in line and I looked at him and I just felt so grateful to be there with him, my hand in his hand. This is my man and he takes charge. And I just felt so safe and able to soften into the experience. And we did a little mushrooms and we were like having some drinks, and we got into, whenever we do, this could also be a beautiful topic. Whenever we do psychedelics together, it becomes this like really beautiful therapy session. And so we get to talking and like diving deeper into our experience. And I'm like, babe, did you ever do online dating? Because right now I have clients that sometimes will want to talk about their mistrust or resistance to online dating. And I have never had an online dating account. I never once was on any of the apps. And in my early 20s, even in my later 20s when I was still single, I met my husband at 26. There was only like a handful. And I feel like now there's so many. And he was saying how he had good experiences like a few times on the apps. And I was saying how I remember being like, no, I don't want to subject myself to that, because I had no problem in thinking that I would meet someone outside of the apps. Mind you, though, I was a bartender, I was working in fitness, I was working events, like I was working at comedy shops. Like I had very social jobs. And so it never once crossed my mind if I would meet someone or not. And what I want to say is our show 9 years ago, I probably said a lot more offensive things about single people because I
Like,
would love them
yes, you
than I
did.
would, but that doesn't mean my mind has changed. And I do remember one of the things I said was in a more offensive,
Mhm.
unaware,
You know, it was what it was. You were 20,
others
what were you? Yeah,
feelings.
yeah, 24 or whatever, yeah.
Yeah. I think that having the confidence to say, I'm not going to need to do that and swipe on 30 guys from my couch. I'm just going to trust that when I go out, maybe 4 times a month, that there is an opportunity to meet someone. It does take a lot of trust and it does take a lot of confidence. And you know what else it takes? It takes your eyes away from your screen and out
Mhm,
into the community. And
mhm.
it was different back then, but what I'm seeing and feeling and hearing from my clients is that the excitement to go out and potentially meet someone has diminished because you
Yes.
can meet someone on your phone at any second of the day.
Yep. Yep. It's taking the stimulus. You're getting your dopamine hit by looking at the screen.
Yes.
That's a proven research thing. You said something very interesting, and it was you didn't go on a dating app because you were already a bartender and you were doing events. That being the case, did you just go out and do those and get approached all the time, or did you use that opportunity to start up conversations and to
Mhm,
meet
both.
different people, right?
Yeah,
Right?
both. I was just very socially open, way more than I am now, and it has nothing to do with my husband, it just has to do with my energetic capacity of talking to strangers,
Yeah,
but
welcome to the, mid-30s to
exactly,
50s. Yeah.
exactly. I met my husband at the bar that I was bartending at, and we were friends for a couple years before we started dating, but when I remember the day he walked in, he sat down at the bar, we had some really dope conversation and we just had a friendship. And then he would come back in, he'd have a drink. Then I would say, let's go next door and have a drink after my shift. And we just built this relationship because that's what you do. You think about if you're building a relationship with a friend, you're going to say, hey, do you want to go grab coffee? Do you want to go take a workout class? Do you want to go walk on the beach? And it's so old school. It's even like shit my mom used to tell me.
Yeah.
But what happened to creating a friendship with another human and then potentially seeing where that goes? I think everyone wants to get all the way to Z before they're even exploring A, B, and C.
Great point. I think that's a really good point in terms of everybody's, I don't know how to organically date. I don't know what to do. I don't know where to go. I don't know. I think one of the keys, one of the not so secret things is go out, be open to just starting a friendship, being inquiring mind. It's just starting to think instead of looking at it like I'm going out and I'm exposing myself to these predator creep guys out here and I don't want to do that, so I have to be protective. But then when you're protective,
Right.
that's the energy that you're giving off and it won't work. And then it's uncomfortable. And I know because we're both the same. We go from extrovert to introvert and we go back and forth. And the older you get, I don't know
Mhm.
if this is true with you. The more introverted and the more I don't want to deal with anybody. I get, and I have to be in the right frame of mind to do that. I feel as though if you look at organic dating or going out and doing it and not being on the phone, if you look at it like it's something you have to do or look at it like it's a job or it's some sort of a process that you're starting when you go out, I don't think that's a very good way to look at it. I think the better perspective is you're going out and you're being present in something and you're doing something. I think the key is the fulfillment needs to start with just your own fulfillment and doing something interesting. And
Yeah.
then what that does is then that opens you up to other people because I can tell you 100% my experiences over the years have been the times that I have met the most women are the times that I did not go out to meet any women.
Yeah.
And so, from a woman's standpoint, what would you suggest to somebody that comes to you and your clients come to you in terms of, I've been on the phone, it doesn't work. I want to start being available and dating out. What would you tell them to do?
So, what was coming up for me as you were speaking was I would probably ask them rather than think immediately they need to throw the app away and just plan on going out every weekend to meet a partner. I would ask them what the app is actually fulfilling in them that they
Mm,
don't think they're going to be able to receive from the organic dating. Because what I think is happening with the apps now, they're being used as a distraction from just life in general, or perhaps from pain in general. So if
mhm.
my client, this would be like my specific client, maybe not your average dating coach, but if my client was saying, "Hey, these apps are really pissing me off," I would be like, "What are you expecting from the app? What are your expectations? And how are you using this app as a way to maybe in the moment receive a little confidence boost when someone swipes?" Because these apps live on our phone with these other apps we use to distract ourselves from our present experience, I would ask, what are you distracting yourself from? And what would it take for you to feel grounded enough to delete the app and trust that if you go to a pickleball tournament, you might be attracted to someone that is available. And if they're not, you can also practice unattachment to the fact that you didn't meet someone out on the pickleball court. And that means not a damn thing
Yeah.
about you. We need to stop attaching to what these things mean about us.
The problem is the overthinking and the fact that you do go out, you do feel as though you're opening up and nothing happens and nobody approaches you. And then you feel 100 times worse
Yes.
because you didn't get reinforcement that I was open and I did put myself out. But you know what? You really didn't. Because if you did, then you would have grounded yourself and opened yourself up to being maybe a little more aware. You may not have created any opportunities, probably, or there's most likely because maybe there weren't any opportunities there. It's not like every time you step out, if you create a level of availability with yourself in the universe, that stuff's going to start magnetizing to you and guys are going to start flocking to you. That's not the point of any of this. It's the realization that this is some level of toxic desire to be
Mm.
with somebody, right? And that comes back to the whole thing about why. And I talked about this in the last show. Now, what you want, pretty clear. And a lot of people know what they want. It's the why, right? Now, why do you want a guy, right? Why do you want to be in a relationship? It's because everybody else is in a relationship. Is it because you're lonely? Is it because you're not as far along in your life as you think you are and you need to start a family right away? All those are
Mm.
nonsense reasons to meet somebody. And I guarantee you, being a therapist and a counselor and a relationship coach for 20 some odd years, that will not work out if that's
Mhm.
the case. It'll only work out if you become clear and open to where you're at. So, in terms of going out and going to the right places, and I was thinking about this when you were bringing up the places that you put yourself in, the pickleball thing, especially. Another layer of this is the whole find a good man thing.
Mhm.
We're going to find a good man. Where do you go? Bars, they're not the greatest place. They can. And I've met a lot of women at bars. That sounds too much. You know what I mean?
You met me at a bar.
I know. Yeah. So again, it actually, let's talk about that for a second. That's a really good point because I came in, you were serving there, and we just hit it off. Not in
Totally.
that way, but we had a really good conversation. We had similarities because we were talking about radio, and that was 10 years ago. Right. So
Yeah.
but that was the point. The point is that there was no overt intention or anything. I was
Mhm.
there with
Mhm.
just a bunch of friends just hanging out having a beer, and you were working, and there was no plan of attack or anything, and all of a sudden we just started talking and we just had this connection. So I
Mm.
think that brings up a really good point. The point is that it can be anywhere. The issue that I come up with a lot of my clients is they're like, I don't like going out, or I don't have anybody to go out with.
Mm.
And I'm like, okay, that's kind of an issue, right? And if you are an introvert, like we had said before, yeah, you might not have that overt energy when you go out, but that's not what we're talking about anyway.
Yeah. I think
And
people
it's
definitely have like different social preferences, and I understand that. And I do have friends that have met on apps that are married and beautiful couples. And I don't think that it is impossible, but it's going back to intention and then practicing non-attachment to whatever you end up receiving from taking a chance.
yeah, that's it. Just the non-attachment from it. It just is, right? It's the energy transfer, it's a back and forth. And I know we may be talking ethereal, but it is we've been there. We've both been there and we've both done it like a lot. And from the other side, that's the key in all this thing. Organic dating is great, but it's also a pain in the ass too. There's really no difference from that from online dating, except for the fact that with the organic, you're taking a few steps out and you're also creating and you're working on the tools that you need to work on to have a successful relationship anyway, instead of swiping on the screen. Because as much as you have and the reason why I started, because I did do online dating a lot, and the reason why I started is because I worked from home and I wasn't out and about. And I thought, this is great because I can meet a bunch of people within a 30-mile radius and see what goes. But the problem with that is there's an algorithm thing that it doesn't allow you to see everybody.
Mm.
Then it becomes a checklist thing. And the checklist mentality is like you talked about in the last show. If he doesn't have this and if he doesn't have this and he doesn't have this, you have so many choices, especially women have so many choices. A guy's swiping and they go in there, they see an inbox of 200 guys, and what do you do when you have it's called the paradox of choice. When you go in and there's 900 cereal boxes in front of you, you're like, oh, I don't know which one to choose. So when you have 250 guys in there, what happens is your mind is trying to create something that's easier for you to process. And so it'll narrow it down to the basic stuff and only the stuff that you hold value to. And if you have a long list,
Mm.
then you're going to look for all of those things. And if you find somebody with 8 out of those 10, you're going to go, oh, okay, great. And then maybe give them a chance or go out to coffee. But every single moment, and this is totally true, that you're out there with that 8 out of 10, you're going to be looking for something that doesn't make it okay because it's
Mm.
not 10 out of 10.
Or you're gonna be looking for a 10 out of 10. You're
And
gonna,
that's what I
like,
mean. So
be looking for someone that checks all your
then
boxes.
you're going to go back into the phone and then you're going to look and you can see a 10 out of 10. And then here's the kicker. Then when you find the 10 out of 10, you're going to make it 11 because that's
Mm.
how the stupid app works. And because it feeds on our underdeveloped processes of our minds. And it's a terrible way to do. And that's why going out and doing things, I know it's a little harder and it may be a little more limited in terms of the people that you meet. And that's really what comes down to the bottom line. The bottom line here is how do you meet other people? Of course, there's always the gym, but the gym's not a good place, especially from a guy standpoint, because we talked about the whole thing about being approached. There is, I cannot tell you the wave of women, like most, if not all, almost all, that do not want to be approached at the gym. Am
Yeah,
I
for
wrong
sure.
on
I
that?
think if you are gonna explore a gym meeting, it should be a group fitness type class, like
No.
a community-oriented gym, not just like a 24-hour fitness. And again, you gotta know yourself to know if someone's interested in you or not, or to feel the signs that are like, "No, dude, not right now. I'm literally on the phone. I'm, like, trying to put my chapstick back in my purse, and I'm walking on a treadmill. This is not the time for you to come up and tell me that my shoe's untied," or
Right.
whatever.
Or try to
It's
give you
like
advice in lifting weights, which is the worst.
no meeting
No,
at
not
the
at all.
gym.
All right, so the bottom line is that as a woman, let's talk about how does a woman get the right mindset to go out and to be available and to create something?
Just to treat it as a fun experience, a way to learn more about yourself. I always said this and I still stand true, even with anything I do. It's interesting because having my own business and working with hundreds of different humans all across the world, I have learned like the types of humans that I can best benefit. And it doesn't mean that the ones that actually aren't for the way that I do things are bad people. It just means they're not aligned with my methodologies.
Mhm.
And that's okay. And I could easily like meet someone and sell them my mentorship and them say, no, I'm not interested and let it mean a lot about myself. But I use that as an opportunity to receive information about the people I am aligned with. So I think if you go out there and allow it to be an experience of perhaps trial and error, or allow it to be an experience to see yourself in someone else, which a lot of people hate to hear, it could be profound and it could also be really self developing.
That's the truth. We've been through it. Again, I've said it before and I'll say it again. The most successful way to go about doing that and to find somebody that you can have a level of energy sharing and kismet and be on the same frequency is if you allow yourself to be you and that may sound a little flighty, but how you do that is very simple. Just sit in your own discovery and be out there for you, and don't be out there with a particular purpose in mind. It's just to be out there to, be fulfilled with your friends or look for a good book at the bookstore. I can spot a woman that is in that space and with
Mhm.
that energy from across the room. And I got to tell you, and this is the God's honest truth, it's attractive as hell.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean that I'm gonna go over there and start hitting on her in that fashion, but I just have to tell you that when that energy comes out, when you are in that state, it is attractive and you will get the guys who are respectful of boundaries. You
Mhm.
will get those guys to do something or try to do something to get your
It's
attention.
yeah, it's so interesting because even when I go out with friends and I do have my energy closed on purpose,
Yeah.
I don't get hit on. And there are
Mhm.
moments where and it's fine and I'm obviously okay with it. But then there'll be moments where I'm more engaged in conversation and the guys at our table are interesting. So I will talk to them and then immediately they are interested in me.
Yep.
And of course, respect my boundaries when I say I'm married. This is an experiment that I have worked with. I could go out and say, I don't really want to talk to anybody. I just want to be here with my girlfriends. Please, nobody come up to us. And that's what will happen. And then when I go out with my girlfriends that want to be approached, I'll open my energy for their sake and we
Mhm.
will get approached. Just play
Yes.
with this.
Just play with it, but don't overdo it. Don't be inauthentic in that. You've seen these people where they go out and they're like, "Oh, hey," they're trying to be all this, and then they're pulling off the power move crap and the whole taking space and all that nonsense that they read out of the back of a book or something. Don't be that guy. Don't be that girl. You don't have to be the one wearing the lampshade. You can just be you, introverted or not, right? Or whatever the case, and that energy will show, I guarantee it.
Mhm. Yeah, maybe I'll have to go out and do some experimenting.
Oh, it's fun. Back in the day, I used to take clients out and I would stand back and it was fascinating.
Fun.
And it did, and it does 100% does work. So to wrap this up, organic dating, it's just dating for you people who this is not a new thing. This is how we used to do it back in the horse and buggy days.
And it is more expensive.
Yeah, it's gonna be. It will be. And I'm very much more of a traditional without overstepping those in terms of I think it's the guy's responsibility to pay if you're gonna go out on a date. I gotta be honest with you.
Mhm. Mhm.
But I've never bought a girl a drink. Like, buy you a drink. I think that's nonsense. I do. I really do. I think that's
Yeah.
nonsense. I never have. I just think that's just a it's a rookie move. "Oh, I'll buy you a drink." First of all, the girls are like, "Yeah, I can go out anywhere and any bar and I just drink for free." And
Totally.
you're like, "Why?" She goes, "I'm a girl. That's
You just
why."
have to have a good follow-up if you're gonna do that and you don't wanna be used.
Yeah, exactly. And ultimately, even if you do, then you'll get used anyway. most of the time, because that whole drink thing is completely takes her off track and you off track in terms of what you're trying to do, which is just start a conversation and get to know somebody real quick, or
Mhm.
see if they're open to get to know.
Mhm.
That's kind of how it works. So thanks, Lex.
Thanks.
Appreciate it. And we should think about more fun things that we can reiterate that we talked about 9 years ago
Totally.
that people should listen to, right? Because
Listen
now
now, though.
that's what I mean. Yeah, listen now. Put the tag at the end in terms of where they can get a hold of you.
Yeah, follow me on Instagram at lexi.rodriguez.smith. And I love chatting in the DMs there. That's it.
So for me, it's TonyDufresne.com, or again, if you can't spell it, it's theconfidencedoc.com. It's Tony at the Confidence Doc. I've got my brand new masterclass out, which is coming this week, which is how to get the hell out of a toxic relationship, run for your life. And then the bonus is how to tell if you're being gaslit, the 12 responses to the 12 statements that you're going to say to completely squash that or put out the flame, so to speak, from a gaslighting standpoint. So I hope things are good, and I'll talk to you next week.